Hey, Aethon authors and fans, we have two box sets today and a new release. So we have Abi Barden that's going to be joining us to talk about her box set, a completion of 5 books. Pretty big deal that is going to be released as a box set. So a fantastic deal as well if you want to take a look at that. We'll talk to her shortly. First up, we have Pity the Ghoul by A.C. Hadfield. So this one is pretty interesting. If you're in the Dungeons and Dragons world, you'll probably want to take a look at this one. It's from the Steve the Paladin series. I'm going to read the description real quick. Bloodthirsty ghouls, a necromancer, a secret academy that uses Dungeons and Dragons as a training manual. What could possibly go wrong? After recently discovering he's a paladin and that the world of the supernatural is real, Steve Firestone, a divorced late-night radio host, has the first day at school feeling. Only this is no Hogwarts. Being 40, out of shape, and with a mouth that gets him into trouble, Steve must find a way to meet his tutor's exhausting demands and learn to channel divine power to live up to his ancestry. That's if he wishes to stay at the academy and with his party of new friends, including Namantha, the fearsome wizard, whose flame Steve is a moth. To whose flame Steve is a moth. I should probably learn to read before, I start working for Aethon. Next up, we have Skip Tracer, the complete series, box set by Mickey Nielsen. So Skip Tracer, going to read the description here. Blake Harley is a skip tracer, a kind of bounty hunter on the faraway construct world of Concourse Prime. Hired by a corporate client to secure an overdue product, he'll make some quick crip and be on the next job. Easy. Except this job is anything but simple. The product is tied to the immensely powerful and ultra-secret hypertech, leaving Blake with a choice. Be a good soldier or refuse to help Magnacorp become the most powerful entity in the system. So this one's been compared to sort of a Blade Runner adventure and Altered Carbon. So if you're into those two books, you might give this box set a look. Next up, of course, we have Abi Barden and Aether Chronicles. So Abi Barden, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
So I love the opening line to your description. It says, Amethyst Forrester is a scientist, not a lady. So tell us a little bit about this series, which is steampunk in nature. So a lot of people, I'm sure, are fans of steampunk that'll probably be viewing this. So
yeah, I hope so.
exciting.
I say Amethyst Forrester, she's not a lady, she's a scientist. Or, well, she would be if the academic world would let her, because it is set in 1875. And although it's an alternative history to the one that we actually lived through, it is quite similar in some of the prejudices that it holds. So she makes the acquaintance through her mentor, of Benjamin Maker, Lord Fotheringham, the 5th Earl of Umbria. And that's something she's extremely grateful for when her mentor dies unexpectedly and they jointly inherit his house and his fortune. The problem is it doesn't look like the death was natural. So they call in Inspector Dean Jensen of Scotland Yard, and he investigates the murder of the mentor, and it adds intrigue and rivalry and all sorts of things through book 1. We're also, in book 1, we're introduced to Amethyst's family, who is an absolute jewel box of individuals, 6 siblings. And there are evolving feelings, there's lessons learned, there's truths uncovered and mysteries revealed through the series until we find out who is the real conspirator behind all of the problems. And that's really Aether Chronicles in a nutshell.
So it's part mystery, and then it goes into action, but then it also has some supernatural elements.
Has some supernatural elements, yeah. The science that she's involved with is called etheric science. So she manipulates and she invents Aether-run gizmos, thingamies, contraptions, and everything like that.
I love.
She needs, she invents.
Yeah, I love new magic systems. No matter what form they take, as long as there's new laws and properties to discover. I think that's why a lot of people have taken a liking to Lit RPG rather than a traditional fantasy. Lit RPG tries to almost explain mechanics and rules behind it a little bit more than some of the traditional fantasies were going. So traditional fantasy can kind of take a hint from that and kind of describe the laws and mechanics behind their magic systems better.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I do through this, because she is a scientist. She actually has to explain the science. So I had to do an awful lot of research on science and what is possible, what isn't possible, what's theoretically possible that we haven't been able to do. So yeah, there is a lot more explanation of what Aether can do and what Aether is through the book.
Excellent. I think a lot of people will latch onto that as well as more the popular trend in the not quite mainstream, but the indie world. So tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what led you to the steampunk and classic 1800s settings.
Well, oddly enough, it was actually a short story competition. I had read a few steampunk books before I started writing steampunk, but I have found a short story competition for Skylar Publishing, and they were looking for mysterious islands. And as soon as I saw the advert for it, I thought, oh, I know what I could write there. So I did. I wrote it. It's called The Steel Inside. It's part of the Steel and Bone anthology. Quite a few years old now. I can't remember how long ago that was, but it was just one of those things. I just got inspired as soon as I saw the advert. So I wrote that, first steampunk thing I ever wrote. Steampunk is, oddly enough, the only genre which I've had everything I've ever written published. And so that got me into steampunk. From that, I then had the idea for Shades. And I thought Shades was going to be one book. And as soon as I started writing all these characters, I started realizing there's so much more that they had to say. So it just grew and grew.
5 books, very impressive, and I just love that concept. Steampunk with Aether as a scientist, but it's a magic system in a scientific steampunk world. And it's like you say all those words together, and it sounds, oh, that sounds like nonsense, but it sounds like it matches strangely well. The steam aspect of harnessing Aether. It sounds like a lot of fun.
That's one of the reasons why I set it in 1875, actually, because at that period of time, even in history, we were going through some really incredible inventions. My original thought was to set it in 1850 because I wanted them to go visit the Great Exhibition, and I was going to do all sorts of trickery and things with that. But then I did a bit more research, and I found that electricity was being promoted much more. The stuff that horrible experiments like electrocuting elephants and that stuff to choose AC over DC or DC over the AC. So I thought, because at the heart of Shades, there's actually a question about a bill going through Parliament that is going to unfairly advantage etheric science over electrical sciences. So I had to set it at a time where electricity was being invented and used, which is why we got to 1875 rather than 1850.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It sounds like a couple people in the audience watching right now think it sounds fun too. We got Kian, who says this sounds like fun. Christopher Morgan, this will be one of my first steampunk series. I pre-ordered this before Christmas. Looking forward to trying a new genre for me.
Well, I hope you enjoy it, Christopher.
Christopher then he rebuts by saying, but I know that he'll try anything from Aethon. It's true. Christopher is #1 fan, and
well, that's what you get when you produce good books across various genres.
I'll have to ask Christopher to send me his private, top 10, top 20 list from our Aethon catalog so I can catch up to him. So, all right. Author advice. You said you've published 10 books at this point?
10 books in total, because I have an alter ego. Well, it's actually me. Is G.B. Williams, who writes crime. Quite hard-hitting, fast-paced crime.
So author advice for someone looking to incorporate, not necessarily even into the crime genre, but setting up a crime, a mystery, a trail to follow.
Setting up a mystery it's really about why somebody did it. It's actually motive that's the harder thing to work out. Actually killing somebody or stealing something or conspiracy, that's the easier part. But figuring out why somebody would commit a crime is the hard part, and also giving them a strong enough reason. And again, you have to have that motivation matching what the crime is. So without trying to give anything away, or trying desperately not to give away the ultimate end game of this one, I knew what that end game was. I had to make sure that my villain's motivation matched that. So he has this huge ambition, and I had to figure out, why would somebody actually go to the time, expense, and effort of doing everything that he's doing in order to get the final payoff? And the payoff is the thing that you always have to think about. And this isn't just for crime or for steampunk or anything, but whenever you read a book and whenever you meet people in real life, they're always doing what they think is the right thing. Whether or not it's the right thing morally, legally, or generally, that's a different question. But everybody acts in a way that they think is right for them. It's what's going to give them the payoff. And that is always the hardest thing to work on. And that's irrespective of genre. This is even true in something as nice and cozy as a romance. You have to figure out why these characters are doing what they're doing. And it has to be a payoff for them personally. If you can figure out the payoff, then all the rest is quite easy. When it comes to killing somebody, there are hundreds and hundreds of different books out there that will help you. I watch a lot of Dr. G Medical Examiner, because that actually tells you the medical side. So you'll find out what forensics can do. I have a friend who is a forensic examiner in Greater Manchester Police. I ask her a lot of questions. I happen to live across the road from the copper, and I ask him a lot of questions about procedure. So that side of things, the mechanics of how you kill, how you find the evidence, how you would put together a case, all of that is easily researched. And it doesn't matter if you're looking at it from an American point of view or a British point of view, because obviously being British, I have a different legal system to deal with than you guys. The practices are actually very similar. The laws are similar, if not the same. So all of that sort of stuff can be researched. So yes, do your research. And if you're going to create a magic system like use of Aether, do think about what that means scientifically, naturally, explain it away. A reader will actually suspend belief and read anything you want, as long as you give them a reason to suspend belief and trust you as an author. So yeah, find your motivation, then do your research, and that should get you through on pretty much any genre that you write.
Yeah, that's really good. I think motivation is one of the more difficult things, and it sounds like it's because people put it out of order. They do the crime, then they gotta like, why did they do the crime? Or why are they doing this in the first place? And then I guess it makes a disjunction with the character and what's happening or what happened. So that's good. Yeah. That's good. So final question I have for you is, what is next? What is it that you're working on? And I guess this is an opportunity to sort of tell us about your other persona.
At the moment, I'll go through the crime one quickly because that's probably the quickest. I'm actually writing the first of a police procedural series. It's going to be 11 books, and it's actually based on tarot readings and the Celtic Cross tarot system of divination. So it is a modern day contemporary police procedural set in South Wales, but there will be 11 books, and there has a very strong supernatural side to it. So that's what G.B. Williams is doing. Abi Barden, is actually writing at the moment a new steampunk series, the first one of which is going to be called Peacekeeper. This is an odd mix of both my steampunk and my crime stuff, actually. This first one is set around a post-apocalyptic city-state called Haven City. The main character is Intendant De Silva. He is a police officer. Intendant is roughly the equivalent of inspector in this particular world. It is explained again in the beginning of the book. But what he finds out is that there is corruption going on within the aldermen, who are the city councillors. And he has to go through an awful lot of hoops to try and find the evidence to actually convict the particular villain in this case. And he has to use the assistance of a psychic, who he doesn't actually believe is a psychic, and is trying to debunk her and prove that she's wrong, which obviously turns out quite difficult when she really is a psychic and does know what she's talking about. And she's actually channeling one of the murder victims that he finds early on in the book. So that's what I'm writing at the moment. I'm probably about 2/3 of the way through. I've got at least 2 more books in this same series after that. This one is quite crime-based, but the others will go on to more crime and adventure.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Sounds like you've got this crime mystery stuff down.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's Christopher says he loves when authors mix genres like sci-fi, crime, mystery, or lit RPG elements, or steampunk now. And then Kian Montana, she said, few people think they are the villain when talking about motives. And so I think I agree with that. And I think almost we have to ignore that in some cases. In a lot of cases, you need a true villain in a book, but at the same time, it's almost the better twist when you have someone thinking that they're actually the heroes of their own stories. And so I think
that's why you'll see a rise of the anti-hero.
Yeah.
If you look at things like Darkness, the comic book, I love comic books. Things like Darkness, you'll find that actually the hero and Lucifer, these are particularly evil people, but they don't think of themselves as evil. They are the anti-heroes because they are trying to do what is right for them. The problem is we don't all agree, you know?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, so for those who might have just joined or are going to be watching this later, if you haven't heard that the complete Aether Chronicles is released today, 5 books, and it has a very interesting mix of steampunk with an Aether scientific magic system. And so I think it's a very exciting concept, very unique. But at the same time, I think people will find a familiar love to the story, it sounds like. So Abby, thank you so much for joining us. Anything else we should know about Aether Chronicles or otherwise that's coming on the horizon?
I absolutely think Aether is a jewel box of steampunk, and it should be seen more. So thank you for Christopher's and others who read it. And if you need anything more, I've got a website called gailbwilliams.co.uk. All of my books are on there. And have fun with it. And if you're writing, find your motive, find your character's motivation and stick to it.
Yep. On sale today, 5 whole books. That sounds like a fantastic deal.
Enjoy it.
All right. We'll talk to you soon, Abby, and looking forward to your future projects. So
thank you.
Have a good day. See y'all next week, Don.
Take care.